actually go to this article, you can see the photos, and the photos, I think, make it really like kind of blown away to see what's happened. So basically, less than a year ago, this is when the coronavirus outbroke in the Chinese city. Thousands of people stood shoulder to shoulder at a water park in Wuhan over the weekend for a socially snug concert. Less than a year after the coronavirus broke out, more people were wearing goggles and life jackets than face masks amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Critics often described partygoers such as COVIDiots.
Mm-hmm. Have you not heard that phrase before?
No, I have never. People use this term apparently in the US and Canada. Apparently I don't. Wuhan claims to have effectively stopped the spread of COVID-19, which has allowed it to revive the parties of the past. So if you do look at these photos, and I mean, I wonder if I probably can't show you really quick.
Oh, boy.
People are literally
shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, and at the back, like this far apart from each other. So
that was taken on August 5th. That was taken 3 days ago.
3 days ago, yeah.
Yikes.
So, I mean,
that makes me so anxious.
Yeah. They actually saw the first case of the virus almost a year ago. They had a 76-day lockdown earlier this year. The province itself has about 11 million people, so their population is quite huge. So it's just interesting because I know that, you know, they're the first ones to get it, so they're probably the first ones to stem it not happening as much in their city because they've been through maybe the first wave and the second wave already. I don't know if they had a second wave, but I'm imagining they probably did.
Yeah, because they did have a couple cases spike there.
Yeah.
Like a second time.
Yeah. So there's a lot to digest in this article and a lot to talk about, but I think the main point we want to bring up, though, is about the music festival and how there was this many people there.
Because we literally just talked about music festivals and kind of how live music is going to be making its way back into the quote unquote new normal. Us being musicians, and it's an interesting topic.
And it says here the last part of the article is mainland China reported 22 new coronavirus cases on Monday, up from 19 cases a day earlier. So there was no deaths, but it's still interesting because it's not completely vanished out of the, out of the abyss. And I know people are like, oh, it's kind of like the flu where, it might never, ever really necessarily go away. But it's just, it's interesting. I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing, like if it's a sign of like, oh, this could happen to us in a year. We won't need to feel so like, when I feel like we're already starting to do this, but where we don't need to be so far apart. We don't need to put so much concern into how much we wash our hands. But with,
I think whether there's a coronavirus or not, you should still wash your hands.
That's a good
I think
point.
all of us have only just learned how to properly wash our hands. So
And we've learned that strangers do not need to be 6 feet any closer to each other. We need to actually have distance.
I saw this one post. It was like, man, I can't believe I just let y'all breathe on me before. And then it was like, at the grocery store, can we keep that 6 feet apart rule? Please stay 6 feet away from me at all times. Yeah, honestly, I would be okay with that, to be honest. I get so sick when, not actually sick, but just like I get sick of people who like breathe down my neck at the grocery line. So now that they have to stay far apart, I'm like, this is nice.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because speaking of the coronavirus, just really briefly, I think like being in public in places, and this music fest, could be one of the examples, but I think it's brought out a lot of anger in people. And I understand like the reasons why. It's maybe like they're cooped up in a long amount of times, or they're not seeing as many people as they normally see, and they're not used to their routine. But literally the other day when I was at the grocery store, there's two separate lines. There's the self-checkout line when you have 10 items or less, which I had. Or no, I didn't have that. I had the full grocery cart, sorry. And then the other guy was in a line for the self-checkout. So they're completely different lines. When you actually get told to go to, like, they'd be like, okay, till number 2. That's when you go to the actual clerk. And then when you're not in that line, you go to someone who just, like, directs you when the person from the self-checkout leaves. So they're separate lines. But we were announced to come to aisle 2. And literally it was like, this is how long it took. So we were like, they're like, aisle 2. And we're like, oh, okay. And this dude in that time was like, go. And I was like, I literally was like, chill. Like, I'm going.
Did you say that?
I said that. Yeah. And I was like,
amazing.
You need to calm down. Chill. But anyways, and he wasn't even in the same line. That's why I was like, why are you getting angry? You're not in the same line as me. I'm not holding you up.
I don't know. I think people are a little bit more irritable nowadays.
So that's my conclusion. Yes, people are
I can't believe you got road rage at the grocery store.
Yeah. And
does anyone else get road rage at the grocery store?
I was a boomer, so I'm not going to
yikes
express my thoughts further, but you know what I'm thinking.
Yeah, to kind of conclude my thoughts on like this story. I mean, we've talked about this many times before about, you know, music festivals and concerts being a thing right now. And I honestly, like, again, I don't know how I feel about it. I know that musicians are anxious to, you know, be working again. And I totally feel that, because I mean, I mentioned before, my entire livelihood this summer was just like, so, I get it. But it's tricky, you know, I mean, like the pandemic isn't over just because you're over it. Sorry, I watched too much TikTok. but yeah, it's tricky. And I mean, I agree that you can do concerts if you're, you know, properly spaced, like we saw the other day with like those platforms, which is really cool. And you have like the plastic barriers, and you're like, for everybody on stage, and everyone's staying really far apart and wearing masks. I get it. But you're shoulder to shoulder in a pool, like it's spread by droplets. You're in a pool, shoulder to shoulder, back to front, people breathing down your neck. Like it freaks me out, man. Yeah. It makes me so anxious just thinking about that.
I know.
Hey friends, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this conversation and you want to keep listening, head over to our Twitch and our Spotify for the full recording. Make sure you smack that like button and the subscribe button on YouTube before you go. See you next show.